Hello, everyone. I wanted to make sure I got a recording in before the holidays and, of course, before the release of Darktide. I did a recording fairly recently to mention what it was and all that. However, the recording was done before the pre order beta. I have a lot of concerns, and I'll go over all of it as best I can. I'll start with the background. I did play Vermintide 2 quite a bit, which is the game that that came before this one. Essentially, this is the successor to that game. By quite a bit, I mean like somewhere over 1,000 hours is what I put into Vermintide 2. So yeah, quite a bit of time. I had a lot of fun with Vermintide 2, and it was a game of quality. So I had high hopes and confidence for Darktide because it said it was the successor on the Steam page. The award-winning melee based on Vermintide, that was the only part I questioned because I saw a lot of questionable things in Vermintide 2 that I was hoping to not see again here with Darktide. I'll go over that now. Moving on to the next topic, and that is the hit registry. It's just so obnoxious in Vermintide 2, and I see that Darktide picked up the same thing. I think I mentioned this in a Vermintide 2 recording a long time ago, but one of the silliest things I remember of in Vermintide 2 was being Hunstman Kruber with a polearm behind an Iron Breaker Bardin. My suspicion was that the rattling enemy, I forget which type it was right now, would hit Bardin because I was behind Bardin, but no, for some reason the hit registry said that, well, it doesn't matter if you're behind Bardin, you're still going to get hit. So I was just saying there like, really? Okay. And then we had the exact same thing. Well, I should say I had the exact same thing happen with Darktide, in which I would back up very far from an enemy when I saw it charging, and yet the hit still counted despite me being like 5 feet away. Like, come on. I can understand if it's like a two-handed weapon, because yeah, those things have reach, but we're talking one-handed here. A one-handed melee weapon managed to hit me from like 5+ feet away, maybe 8. So it's the same thing I saw in Vermintide 2, and I'm just sitting there like, really, with the hit registry? But anyways, that's a hit registry. I need to talk about the other stuff that's quite the problem with this game, and that's the crashes and disconnects. In this pre-order beta, I would say in total I had 9 levels robbed from me. I played 2 characters, Veteran Sharpshooter and then Zealot Preacher. Classes, sorry. Yeah, between those two, I had 9 levels robbed from me because the game would disconnect or crash right before the extraction, or it happens at the worst timing possible, in that everybody got disconnected and then the game session was considered closed because everybody disconnected at once. So yeah, 9 levels in total were robbed from me, which is a lot of time taken away from me over that. Yeah, the crashes and disconnects are out of control. I was honestly expecting much better from the devs from Vermintide 2 days. But it seems that since Vermintide 2, they're definitely slipping in certain areas of game development. But anyways, that's the crashes and disconnects. I need to talk about some of the other stuff in here. The forums are very vocal about the ranged enemies in Darktide 2, and I have to agree with the forums and other YouTube videos that I've watched, in that the ranged enemies are just too oppressive. It's so easy to get stun locked into oblivion and just die. There's nothing you can do. You just stand there and eat the bullets because you get knocked back and stunned so much from that crap that it just makes gameplay impossible. At the higher difficulties, it's practically impossible to play melee. The only way you can survive is if you have an Ogre shielding you and then doing it that way, or if you just run all sharpshooters and just snipe out the enemies with bolt guns. That's about the only thing you could do in the highest difficulty with how oppressive the enemies are. Well, at least the ranged enemies. So that's the range enemies. Let me move into the classes now. I just don't think that they were well designed on some of them. I can't speak too much on Psyker, but I can. Well, I should say balance for fun, actually. I'm going to reword that to balance for fun. Because I know a lot of Ogryn have complained about it not being fun because you have to be stationary with your shield. And that is certainly a theme or a problem across a lot of games, not just Darktide, but also other games, in that support classes are just not fun. I understand the Ogryn player complaints because of my past experiences trying to play support in other games. I would say Sharpshooter is certainly not as bad off as the Ogryn, but pretty close. And the reason for that is because the Sharpshooter has a lot of skills that just don't make sense to it. It's got a mix of grenades and other things, but it's like if you're trying to do long-range shots, why put grenades in there? There should be other talents in there to help with long-range combat, not with worrying about grenades or stuff. It would make more sense if it was like a mine or something, so then that way you could place a defensive barrier, if you will, near you, so that if enemies do rush you, then at least you have some way of either stunning them or destroying them outright so that you don't have to worry about them. That would make a lot more sense, but unfortunately I just decided to do this weird thing where it has grenades. So yeah, that's definitely an issue with the Sharpshooter. Yeah, and I don't think that even then that kind of design was a good idea for this game. This game is all about hordes, moving through the levels very quickly. The Sharpshooter made zero sense for that kind of scenario. I think that they should have used other classes instead of the Sharpshooter, but here we are with that. Let's go and talk about guns, because I did mention the Bolter just not too long ago. But yeah, so the Bolter is another problem and a half in terms of balance or things like that. Or it could just be a problem that the other weapons need some love, I guess you can say. As it stands, the Bolter is the best gun in the game simply because it's literally everything packed into one. It destroys elite enemies, it has stupid range, and it does double tap at close range. I mean, it just handles every scenario perfectly to a point where there's no reason to use the other weapons. And I do think that's unfortunate. I think that if the other guns had a similar level of versatility, that might change, and also changing their stats a little bit. Because like the las gun and las pistol just don't do enough damage to really consider using them. I know some people do use them, but there are better picks is what I'm saying. Another issue with the las rifle and also some of the other rifles is the recoil. It makes zero sense to me that a laser rifle would have as much recoil as I'm seeing right now in this beta. I was expecting to see no recoil with it because it's a laser weapon. As for the other weapons, like the Headhunter, as it's called, it's the semi-auto assault rifle looking thing. Yeah, that one has crazy recoil. That should not happen either. Certainly not zero recoil, but certainly a lot less than what it is now. Semi-auto guns in real life are super easy to control. I don't recall any of them being like that unless it's something crazy like a Beowulf or, some high caliber gun. Then yeah, those things would kick like crazy. But a semi-auto of either 7.62 NATO or equivalent, yeah, it's not really that big of an issue on semi-auto. And I will also point out that in real life, if we're going to the sharpshooter level, like competition shooting or otherwise, they usually have it very, very modified. They will have the best compensator on it and many, many other things to help with the recoil. So yeah, the way that they have it set up in Darktide just does not make sense. from a game standpoint as well as a real life perspective. So yes, that definitely needs a fix too. Yeah, I think that if they can fix all of that, I think that Darktide could be just as fun as Vermintide 2. But it all depends on whether or not they can get it together within a couple of days, because this hot mess of a beta that I'm going over right now, pretty randomly I will add, this is all happening just days before the release. This is supposed to release November 30th. Yeah, that's a scary thought. But that's really all I can say on this. Thanks for listening.